want to do a brief recap of what EFT is, Emotional Freedom Technique, or some people call it Emotional Freedom Tapping. Now, for those of you who know me, I am a huge fan when it comes to EFT technique, a tapping process that is done by tapping on acupressure points around your face and on the upper part of your body with your fingertips. EFT is based on modern psychology and the principles of acupuncture, meridians, or they sometimes call it the energy systems, and this is done without using needles. Now, these points are identified in traditional Chinese acupuncture pressure points that land on the energy pathways, as I said, called meridians, that run throughout your body. This is a healing technique that reduces or eliminates negative symptoms and emotions. It works by stimulating the central nervous system and causes the body to release unhelpful chemicals of the emotions that we have. So, EFT for craving. I'm going to be sharing some simple and effective practice techniques that you can use yourself. Once again, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, but some people call it Emotional Freedom Tapping Technique. And again, it's to release the heavy emotional baggage. Now, when we lighten our emotional load, we actually give our bodies the opportunity to deal with other chronic issues that need working out. Now, I love this simple personal practice. It discovers the basics of EFT tapping here, and you will learn all about how you can use this for your cravings. So the EFT plus craving connection. So let's dive in. If you struggle with food cravings, EFT is an incredibly powerful tool that may be able to help you with those cravings. I have come across quite a few people who are looking to stop cravings. So I thought I would make this quick, simple video to help you get started on, but also because I have a EFT webinar coming up, an interactive one at the end of the month of April 2022. Okay, so when you use EFT directly on your cravings, you connect with your craving for a particular food while tapping on the meridian points. Simultaneously, while tapping and thinking about the craving makes it possible to release or lessen the intensity of that craving. This way you look at the food with a much lower craving or without experiencing any cravings at all. Pretty amazing, right? So let's focus on the real food. So I'm going to take you through step by step with how to start using EFT on your cravings. But before I do, keep in mind that you put in your what you put in your body is absolutely the key component to combat these cravings. Meals are loaded with sugar, refined carbs, even if organic, gluten-free and vegan spike your blood sugars and can trigger cravings for more sugars and refined carbs. So, therefore, you're likely to get stuck in this vicious cycle of constantly craving unhealthy food. Instead, eat nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory diet made up of a real whole foods. Be sure to also include protein, healthy fats and fiber-rich carbs at every meal. And of course, drink plenty of water. In doing so, you may be able to eliminate the food cravings altogether. But an important note is to remember that if you are unsure, please seek advice from a professional health nutritionist about some of the foods mentioned above so that it fits with your medical needs. Also, if you have any medical conditions, again, please seek advice and consult your GP or a medical profession. Okay, time to dive in. So let's get tapping directly on your craving. Now, if you implement dietary changes and are still craving food that doesn't serve your health and nutrition goals, that's when I recommend that you use EFT to target those cravings. So here's how to do it. Grab a particular food that you are craving. And if you don't actually have the food available at that moment, try using a photograph of the food instead. Now, as you look at the food, notice what you love about it. Is it the smell, the taste, the texture? Then what I want you to do is rate how much you crave the food on a scale of 0 to 10. Use 10 as the highest or the most craving and 0 as no craving at all. Then I want you to take the tips of your fingers, your index fingers or the middle finger or even all 4, and I want you to start tapping on the karate meridian point. That's right there, okay? And here is where you are going to say this statement. So you're going to set it up with a phrase and you're going to say it 3 times. So even though I have a strong craving for, and then I want you to fill in with your food choice, such as grilled cheese, sandwich, because, and then continue with, because I love, and then fill in why you love it, such as gooey cheese that oozes out with every bite. Then continue to say, I deeply and completely accept myself. So even though I have this strong craving for, because I love, I deeply and completely accept myself. So what I'm doing is I'm pausing where I want you to fit in those keywords about the craving of the food that you're having. Even though I have a strong craving for, so fill in the food, i.e. grilled cheese sandwich. Then continue with, because I love gooey cheese, I deeply and completely accept myself. Then, using your fingertips or your index, I want you to move on to tapping on the other meridian points. Okay, and you're going to tap about 7 times. So they're quite little quick tapping things. And you're going to go to the eyebrow. Okay, and you're going to tap on the eyebrow. Then you're going to move to the side of the eyes. Then under the nose, under the chin, and the collarbone. Okay, and then you're going to go under the arm. Okay, and then you're going to finish up the top of your head. Now, while you're tapping on each meridian point, focus on the craving and use a phrase to remind yourself of your favourite part of the food. So for example, if you're tapping up here, gooey cheese. Okay, so that's what you do. You're mentioning those cravings on each of those tapping points. Repeat the entire sequence a minimum of at least 3 times. Retest how much you crave the food on a scale of 0 to 10. And if your craving still hasn't gone down to a 0 or close enough, keep going with those rounds of tapping. Everyone is different and responds differently at a different speed. Now, before you start tapping again, make sure you connect with your craving for the food. Notice if what you love most about the food has changed to a different feature of the food. So if instead of gooey cheese, it's warm and buttery bread. If it has, focus on whatever part of the food you now desire. So it's really about those emotions around the craving of the food. You then modify your setup phrase to note that they're still part of the craving, remaining by saying, even though my craving for is not yet gone, I still want to because I love the taste of it. And I love the taste of, accept the food and currently desire most. I deeply and completely accept myself. And remember to do this karate point setup at 3 times. Then do another round of tapping on the meridian points, adjusting your reminder phrase for each part of the food that you currently desire. So for example, warm and buttery bread, the gooey cheese, and so on. Okay? Ideally, you'll keep tapping until you reach 0, but generally if you get the craving to about 3 or lower, you will be in a place where you could take the food or leave it, making the decision not to eat the food whole lot easier. Now, in the process, if you tap in the wrong order, so you do the wrong order, do not get concerned about this. Don't stress about that. As long as you are focused on tapping with intent and desire to release the issue, i.e. the craving in this instant, it will still work. So do not get bogged down by the process of you've missed out a tapping point. Okay, I want to talk to you about when there's resistance. So if after doing several rounds of tapping, you find that your craving isn't budging, you can attempt to tap on your resistance to let go of that craving. So again, here you would change the setup phrase on your karate chop to note this resistance stating, for example, even though I have no desire to stop eating because I deeply and completely accept myself. And again, do these 3 times. Then do the rounds of tapping, focusing on the reason why you don't want to let go of the food you crave. So in regards to time, the amount of time that you're tapping directly on your cravings can help in the moment when faced with food craving that you're struggling to not eat. Now, by reducing your desire to eat it, you make it easier for yourself to walk away from it. But if you're like many people who struggle with cravings, there's often a time after when you're likely to eat the food no matter what. The only way to reap the benefits of using EFT to reduce cravings is to start using it before you get to that no turning back point. So if you're trying to figure out when your no turning back point or time is, here's a hint. It's often when you've switched from thinking about the food to acting on eating. So for example, it might be when you've picked up the phone to order a pizza. We've all been there. We all feel like that, most of us at the time. Or once you've popped that frozen, steak or enchilada in the oven. Or maybe it's when you have the box of the mac and cheese in your hand, if you're a McDonald's fan. I'm not, so that's okay for me, but yeah, just kind of think about those. So what I want you to do is try to determine when your no turning back point is, and the next time you have a craving, practice using EFT before you reach that point. Let's talk about digging deeper for cravings. Now, occasionally, you may be able to eliminate a craving permanently by tapping directly on the craving itself. But many times, craving occurs because a person is experiencing a negative emotion that they're trying to suppress with the food. So if your cravings are being triggered by emotions, you're likely to keep tapping on the craving every time it arrives until you figure out what the trigger is. So the trigger is really, really important. Of course, having the ability to use EFT in that moment is really empowering, because it gives you an actionable tool to reduce that cravings. But ideally, you'll need to start digging deeper to figure out why your cravings keep appearing. So remember, it is the triggers. So that's what you need to tap on. You can then use EFT to reduce and release the underlying emotion for the triggers of that craving. In other words, in addition to using EFT directly on cravings, you can also use it to decrease or clear the intensity of the negative emotion that are at the root of your craving. When you use EFT in this way, you make it possible for EFT to have a more long-lasting effect on your cravings because you're targeting the root cause. Tips. Are you ready for them? So, if you would like to dig deeper into your emotions behind cravings, ask yourselves these questions. When a craving arises, what emotion comes up when I think about craving this food? Why am I having these emotions? Are they connected to any specific events? Did an upsetting event happen prior to this craving? If an upsetting event did happen prior to this craving, does that event remind me of a similar upsetting event or events from my past? Is this a food I've craved before? If so, is there a pattern to when I'm craving it? And if so, is there an event that I can remember when I first started craving it? Does this food remind me of anything or anyone from my past? If it does, why is it that it's upsetting me? Are there any beliefs about myself that come up when I think about craving this food? If so, are there any events in my life that gave rise to or support this belief? Create a list of all the specific events that come to mind when you answer these questions above. Then think about using EFT to decrease or clear the intensity of the negative emotion connected to the specific events you're able to identify. Now, doing this makes it possible to think about the same previously upsetting event or events that triggered your cravings with a much lower emotional charge or without experiencing any negative emotions at all. You're likely to find that when you clear the trigger or triggers for your cravings, the craving itself begins to disappear or will completely disappear. Right, find support to getting the root to your cravings. Not only takes time, but it also can be challenging to do on your own. So, if you're trying to dig deeper, but find yourself struggling to identify those events, those emotions, belief systems that are around the triggers or your cravings, or you've identified them, but you're still having trouble working through them yourself, consider reaching out to a certified EFT practitioner like myself, or one that you connect with to help you guide you through the process, because sometimes that's a lot easier when you've got support. Now remember, there is no set length of time or frequency for tapping. It's different for everyone because we are all unique with our own past experiences, our habits and beliefs. But for consistency, try tapping at least once a day to begin creating those positive habits. You can also tap more than once a day if you wish, or simply as and when you need it. Now, remember, when it comes to tapping, it is completely invasive. However, please note that if you have suffered through any kind of serious trauma or are a victim of crime, please do not do EFT on your own. It's not a great idea to work through these events by yourself, even if the triggers even if the triggers are cravings. So please seek help from a professional who can support you and guide you through this if you've been a victim of crime or gone through severe trauma. Now, if you would like to know how I can support you, arrange a free call with me, no obligations at all. Let's just have a chat at calendly.com/zinat-narani/discovery consultation -call. I'm Zinat Narani, founder and owner of Vida de la Mariposa Coaching. You can also pop over to my website, https://zinatnarani.com, and you can see all the services and products I provide. Also, if you want to become part of my community by receiving my monthly newsletter to a range of resources and tools, then do subscribe to that while you're there. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, follow and subscribe. Thank you for listening.